Hello everyone and welcome to ZankCast, where we discuss Beyblade topics. For this ZankCast, we have asked you the subscriber to give your thoughts and opinion on the Beyblade X animation and the products. And our guest for this, our co-host, is Nizuma.
Hey, thanks for having me.
First take, right? Okay, well, I basically asked this thing because since X anime and the products have gone on for a good amount of time, the anime obviously less than the products, I thought we would touch base kind of on our personal opinions, and then after we'll read some of the comments stuff and give our thoughts. Are people capping? Is it cope? Whatever. So to kind of first go over the X anime to kind of just settle a bit of just general thoughts that we have. Obviously, the anime is not good right now. Like, in terms of just general quality, it is not good. Now, the reason for this, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but one reason for sure is Takara Tomi's meddling hand, because of the fact that in a recent financial, well, it's not recent anymore, but a few months ago, they basically say, oh, the X anime was prepared, I'm paraphrasing, for the winter and the New Year sales. So obviously, because they have this now deadline of, okay, we want to get these products sold, we need the animation to sell it. That's why the anime is the way it is. And also, I have heard that a lot of OLM's animators are working on a lot of other big project stuff, so it's probably even a fraction of the team. But with that being said, before we get to Nizuma giving his thoughts, regardless of, let's say, bad deadline, not that much staff, whatever the product is that we're watching, that has to be judged no matter what. Whether you can acknowledge, okay, there's a circumstance here, but if they do bad choices, which we're going to get to, that'll be your thoughts. But what do you think so far?
So, like you said, I just want to establish really quick that we're aware that there's circumstances that will affect the quality. So if deadlines are rushed, if they're understaffed, if they're pushed too hard, that affects quality. But like you said, we're judging it based on the final product. So, and that's not to say that there aren't redeeming qualities if we're complaining about the animation or that there aren't parts that we enjoy as a whole. But I think it's fair to have criticisms of it. I think that's perfectly fine, especially, I think a lot of us and a lot of the viewers probably watch other anime as well. So, and I've seen a lot of, product placed anime in the past. There's been tons, obviously the Beyblade series and Beat 'em On, and, there's many, many, many. So I typically am not comparing it to the modern day, super,
of course,
high-end shonen stuff, but even in comparison to stuff from 15 years ago, I'm just looking at it going, that looks a little iffy. My biggest complaints with the anime so far have been the animation quality. There's been a lot of the actual backgrounds look great, but they feel empty. There's not a lot of animation happening outside
no atmosphere.
Yeah, there's very little atmosphere in terms of the animation. There's very little background characters or movement happening behind what is immediately in front of the viewer in terms of characters talking or whatever. You very rarely are seeing things in the background. I think in some of the earlier episodes, when they're in the sushi shop, I think it was, and they're Multi's doing her little video or whatever, there's no one in that shop. There's nobody anywhere. It just especially the first several episodes felt super lifeless to me. That was my biggest complaint. I am liking some of the filler that they're doing. I like how they're expanding on some of the characters like Bird. I like some of what they're doing with him just to expand on him training and stuff like that. But yeah, the atmosphere is my biggest complaint. Some poor animation, especially with some of the frames looking a little wonky, between the keyframes and stuff. And then them recycling not so much recycling Beyblades, but not making the effort to recolor them or make them variants or whatever. In the most recent episode with Viper Tail, it's just normal Viper Tail. It's the same one that's used on Team Zuganic. They could have easily, it would have taken 5 minutes, changed the color of it. We have 3 other recolors that have been released. They could have made it blue. They could have made it black. They could have made it yellow. They just left it the stock color, which in world makes it confusing, because if that team's going to show up again, like it sort of undermines that like these characters have like their signature Beyblade or whatever. I know that that's less of a thing. Like the partner Beyblade is like less of a thing because people can just print off a new one or whatever. But I would have liked it more if you're like, okay, well, he has Viper Tail too. At least give him a different color.
Yeah. Alrighty. So for what I like about the X anime, before I go into what I dislike, I like the OST. I think the OST's been pretty nice. I think the casting for the voice actors has been pretty good for the Japanese stuff. That's about it. I got two things. I like the voice acting. I mean, like, maybe very rarely there'll be some good storyboarding, but even then, I feel like a lot of stuff, like this anime almost feels like some things could maybe look okay in stills, but in motion they maybe don't look right. I think there's so much stuff. I think the issue is just, I think it probably is obviously whatever the production time was for this, because I can't imagine this was fun. But there's a lot of stuff that you notice that gets reused from even Burst. Like, for an example, the Wyvern Gale, the design is heavily modified because they're reusing the Burst Wyvern avatar animation, which I think that is disappointing. Like, they reused the Beyblade Burst God, Welcome to the, or whatever season it was, the Welcome to the World of Beyblade with all the Blader stuff. I gave that one a pass because that's like, okay, fine. But like the Wyvern one was very annoyed with. And like you said, I think the general presentation's just kind of just the, not even the bare minimum. Sometimes it feels a little bit less. Like,
yeah,
it feels like they're trying their best maybe to try to be as on model as possible. They don't really feel that expressive or that type of stuff. Like if Bird does his little surprise face, like he does that exact, you know what I mean? And it's not a bad thing to reference the model suit, but you know what I mean? Like the expressiveness, kind of like the life for the characters, I don't think is there in terms of just the visual presentation. Now the bays, now I know, actually, even when Bakuten Shoot was doing this with V-Force and G-Rev, well, G-Rev, I don't know how many filler blades there were. I know in V-Force there's some filler, like Master Drasil or whatever it was, or Frostic Dronzer. They have filler stuff that they use, but they'll maybe just remove the bit chip of the thing, like the little sticker. They'll modify it a bit, but the key thing here is modifying. Like Metal Fight, you'll have people that can maybe reuse the same motif. You've seen Ares, you've seen Eagle, but they always change it up a bit. Like there's an entire team dedicated to 3 serpents, but they're all different in actual visual presentation. And even in Burst did this, all seasons. Even though some people can be using a Storm Spriggan or Ragnarok, whatever, they at least did the effort to make it seem different. So at least the main Beyblade is unique. Now we're going to get to this, and then after you can give your thoughts. It's the idea of just, I don't know if, I don't want to say effort, because it makes it like they're definitely working, but you know what I mean? I think just like cost-effective saving time stuff, it kind of like breaks the world for me when I see stuff reused like that. Like, okay, if Bird's gonna make a big deal that this guy who doesn't know somehow has a drawn sword, which means that that drawn sword is unique in that universe for that existence, you can't just have it when it gets reused in an entire display case. Or Cobalt's Drake, or even the Viper Tail thing is so annoying because it's like you said, there's like the whole, if they want to add, let's say, okay, you can buy these bays, whatever, why not just do the Black Viper Tail or the gold one? Or, you know what I mean? It's like, they have options. And even though the manga is obviously a singular drawing, I can give an example here. Himurite did this, was very clever, and I don't know if past gens have done this or not, but he actually drew the manga random booster combos on random bladers. It's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. I mean, they already, if they're doing random boosters, that's my biggest thing. If they're doing random boosters and they need filler bays, they've made like they're up to 2 random boosters now of filler bays that they could insert into the anime, but instead they've been recycling like the same 3 Beyblades. Like even like the previous episode where they had Strike Hawk or whatever, episode 12 where they had Strike Hawk. Like I get like same. Yeah, I get how that could be sort of like symbolic of like, or like that could pertain to the plot that's happening or whatever, but like they could recolor it. They could have given him something. I think that's the issue.
It's that you could potentially make up this headcanon reason for it, but I think the immersion breaks when you actually look at it through a production standpoint and the reality. Even just watching it, it does feel kind of cheap. And like also, it's a simple thing. Okay, let's say they only have a Night Shield, a Shark Edge. Let's say they just have like the 5 bays or whatever, those models. Why not design a new sticker for them? They redesigned Strike Hawk and the French shit, whatever, the Mont Blanc thing, right? They've designed new motifs. So that's when I think even just production-wise, it's ineffective. And also, I gotta call this out, but the old guy, forget the guy's name. I don't know if you remember the old guy, the sushi guy's name. What's his name?
Remember
Taiso, whatever. He had his entire thing. He was an old guy. Was all a bucket and shoot reference. You telling me they couldn't do a doodle of Dragoon?
Well, it's not like they don't have access to that stuff. It's not like they're not still in conjunction with like Takara Tomy. So if they wanted to, they could have stuck that in there, and that would have been so cool to sort of like connect those generations. Like that would have opened up like so much like fan theory stuff, which would have been awesome. Or just to like reference back to their previous stuff, but instead they're like, oh yeah, I used Shark Edge, which she also uses. So that opens up a whole can of worms in and of itself, because is Maiden using a 20, 30-year-old Beyblade? Are they still making that? Like
even Multi's case is not meant to exist past her debut chapter. It's just meant to look at her case for all the stuff that she has. But then after, I don't know. That's why when you reuse stuff, you got to be very careful. And I know CG is probably like cheaper to do than maybe the drawing stuff, but I don't know. I think that's my main issue, and that's with Olem in general. I don't think how they utilize CG is that effective a lot of times. I do want to give credit, actually, for the newest episode, though. The newest episode was the closest possible we got to how X Battle should be paced when Comon X battled the Viper Tail guy. I forget the Logan Paul guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most recent episode is, as far as the battle goes, is probably the best one we've seen so far. Like, there was a lot going on. The visual effects were good. Like, even like the backdrop, the alley thing, like was very reminiscent of like some older series as well. Like, I like that. I like the whole psychotic light Yagami laugh. It was kind of funny. I like the last couple episodes I've liked more, I would say.
And I think that's part of the anime's issue so far, is that I don't think they have a soul. They don't have an identity to them. Like, if you watch Bucket and Shoot, you get a feeling of the world, you get a feeling for all this stuff. Metal Fight the same. Even Burst this. I think the issue with X is just there's a kind of a lack of depth to the world when you're watching it.
Yeah.
And I think there are small glimmers, like, wow, this was not in the manga. This is nice new content of Comon X going insane, even though I'll get to that in a moment. But hey, look at the digital different shots of like the dragon thing. That's pretty cool that they have that. That's like reminiscent of Bucket and Shoot or Metal Fight, when they realize they can not have to reuse the same bank shots of it popping out and going at the screen. I hate it so much. I have to be honest. Like, you have all these cool designs of these creatures, and all of them literally just like, it's just the same sequence over and over. And I don't know if people can say Burst or even X is better than Bucket and Shoot or Metal Fight, because they utilize the actual spirits a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like just the overall presence and world building was a little better. I mean, obviously, we're still only 13 episodes in.
Yeah, but time.
They have time to course correct for sure, but it just feels flat. It feels flat. So, like I said, the last couple episodes I've liked more, but overall, especially like the start of the anime, felt real
Right.
iffy.
What do you think? No, for Bird, I can just go over my issue. I think people misinterpret this either just because they're not reading what I'm saying, but what I'm trying. So Bird loses, but him losing, there's one part that's part of his character journey till the end of X right now. But my issue is how they treat his losses. Like in the manga, they have it as a quick little gag. Oh, Bird lost, go laugh, whatever. Like when the Rhino Girl beat him, or the latest episode when he's literally he okay, the guy's cheated, whatever, he lost, but still they cheated. But even in the recap of the team, Bird is still losing. And it's like, okay, they have an episode, I think this was the Cadover challenge. They're taking it seriously. They're giving him this training. Okay, that's emotional. I like that. I don't like it when you pivot back and you treat it as a joke, because then that kind of cheapens the journey to me. Like, if he wants to take it serious, okay, they have these moments where he's training, and that's good stuff the anime is adding because the manga is limited. But they gotta... Is Bird a gag? Right? Is he just a loser? When did they take him seriously? That's my issue. There's no tonal balance between it in a writing standpoint right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it was episode 11, I think, is when he's like, they sent him off and he's like training or whatever, and then like Cross shows up. Like, I liked that. I was like, okay, this is building it up. Like, it's getting to the point where like he's really starting to take it seriously. They're building him up for a win. And then the next episode, he loses, and then Multi's like, what the heck? You lost. Like, now I don't have any content.
You idiot.
Yeah. Like, I can't make a video with this. So like, I get what they're trying to do with his character, trying to like slowly build him up, but like when you spend an entire episode having him train and work towards it, and then like immediately the next episode he's like, oh yeah, you lost, your dog crap, like that's like, at least get it to a point where he's getting closer and closer, like the battles are like, they're winning by like a half rotation or something, like make it feel like he's making progress, because right now it's just like every episode is like, oh, he lost again, he lost again, like don't have him train and then not give him progress.
I think even they kind of got that. That's why I think he should have beaten the cheaters. I think, I don't know, it made sense for me narratively if he could win there. I don't think Bird has to beat like Burn or something, or Chrome, just to have that be his development. I don't think that's so extreme. I think it just has to be steady progress, right? Like, even if he beats a bunch of people, like, there's still the big stage, right? But I do want to also give credit before I mention, the anime does bring this a lot more than the manga, which I like, which is this aspect of a social media influencer. And they have like these popularity polls, I think is very strong that they're doing. That's something interesting that they're doing. I just think, it's like 5 out of 10 right now for how they're kind of doing it. You know what I mean? Just in general. But I like that concept that they're doing, at least. Yeah.
I mean, I think they're going in the right direction, but I do think that like you said, he could have beat the cheaters and that would have had zero impact on like people's, like it wouldn't have been detrimental for the X Tower part. Because if he's beating people outside of the X Tower, like, it's like, okay, well, they're not pros, but at least he's winning. Like, at least show him beating somebody that's not in the tower, at least. Like, show him beating anybody. Like, even a little kid, I don't care. Like, at least show that he's capable of winning.
And it would have made more sense to me that he overcomes the cheaters in that episode. That's just an example. That's why I didn't like I like the Comon X scene, but I don't like that he was just written there just because they're delaying it specifically to pace it out for the next manga chapter. That's why it gets really frustrating, because they're not going to give him the win, obviously, until the manga gives him the win. Those are people got to understand. It's not like the anime is this like Metal Fight or whatever, or previous gens where it's a different continuity for how they're writing. They're strictly following the manga very closely. So some things deviate, but this filler stuff is just where it leads to the next manga chapter.
Yeah. Which, as far as like Bird in the manga goes, like, I mean, the pacing's very different. The gag thing, I didn't really read too much into it. I know a lot of people.
I just didn't like when he lost to the Rhino Girl and he's
I
holding up
thought
Bird.
I'm on the
Bird
opposite.
is like that.
I actually kind of like that. I thought it was funny because she just like it was like one panel,
it's
just
funny,
insta loss.
but when the chapters are limited and he's getting his ass beat, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of him losing. Even the Get Over challenge, like he doesn't actually win; he just survives, but he still lost.
Yeah, so it's kind of like win loss or whatever. I mean, at least he kind of was making progress in that next chapter or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, the Rhino Horn one didn't bother me as much, just because like the next chapter, at least it felt like he was sort of inching forward. But the pacing for the manga, I would say, feels a little better than the pacing for the anime, just because the anime is dragging it on so long.
And
like
it depends
in terms
what
of
they drag on too.
Yeah. And it's just like loss after loss after loss. And then they're injecting training too. And then he's still losing. So it feels like even with the training, he's not making progress. And that bothers me. Because I was like, as soon as I saw that episode, I was like, okay, well, he's going to, from this point on, he's done all this training or whatever. We're going to start seeing progress. And it doesn't feel like that. Like Cross has to come and save him. So
I think probably just because the manga is limited. That's probably why I just got annoyed. Because I just beat the shit out of Bird. Bird's already dead. Bird, get up! That's that one's more minor, but that's why I'm saying it's so important to give him the training, to show him taking it seriously, to show that's the kind of thing. But no, we'll kind of hit this towards some of the comment stuff of kind of people's takes. So I will kind of go over some stuff. If there's anything you think is worth talking about, you can interject. Sure. The anime is horrendous. It baffles me how Beyblade over decades ago looks better. And 3 facepalm emojis.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be people that agree with that, and then there's going to be people that vehemently like hate that, and they're going to be and they're just going to like they're going to try to undermine the previous series because they love X so much, and that's probably going to happen more and more. But it's okay to criticize the anime. Yeah. It's okay to criticize the product. You can still like Beyblade and say that's probably not the best that they could have done. So I love Beyblade. We all love Beyblade, but it's okay to be like, that's not a great product. That's not great quality.
I was going to say, there was another thing on Twitter I remember that I was reading where someone was like, listen, I know this thing is shit, but I like it. And I respect that more than just someone trying to defend a lot of the bad choices done for the anime. Because that's like, at least, if you can just admit, yeah, it's pretty bad, but I just have enjoyed it, that's fair. That's fair to me. Because you're not justifying it in some weird way. It's just like, hey man, I like it. And that's all you need.
Yeah, you could even like the plot. You can like the plot and say the animation sucks. Or, vice versa, I guess, if you think the animation's good. I'm going to judge you for that one. But I mean, if you like the plot and you like the direction and there's you can like parts of it and dislike other parts of it, and that's fine. Like you don't have to it doesn't have to be, your favorite thing ever. Of course. You can enjoy it and still be critical of it.
You can even have the terrible take that you think it's somehow better than the previous animes. That's fine to have the wrong opinion in that regard, but I won't fight on that one. I think there is kind of misdirected criticism. Like, people just hate that Bird loses, but I don't have an issue that Bird loses. I always had the issue of how Bird loses, because everyone says, oh, the MC is weak. Which, hey, if they want to acknowledge that Kazami Bird is the actual protagonist of this season, I'm okay with that, because that's already another hot topic debate, apparently. Because Comon X is just the marketing guy. He's the mascot. He's same with Drawn Sword. But Bird is the actual narrative that we're following. He's like the side plots or the protagonist, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all that Bird's losing. A lot of people are really upset about that. I'm like, it doesn't bother me at all to watch him lose.
People are like, I'll drop the anime if he loses one more time.
I think it's kind of
after that shit.
It's almost, especially with the manga, like I'm sort of tracking more than anything. I'm like, how many chapters is it going to be before he wins? The anime, the pace is a little different. They can interject wins that don't necessarily affect the X Tower. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me that he loses. I think it's a different take than we've ever. Yeah, it's a different take than we've ever seen. It's cool to see somebody who's not good try to get better, but that's the thing. He's got to get better. And it can't take 50 episodes, or people just aren't going to like it.
I think it's ridiculous. That is very bad if he only wins right at the end. I don't know. Am I going to sit through 50 episodes of him losing? Dude, even Kenta won more than Bird has in the current episode count that we have. If we go first 13 episodes, I guarantee you Kenta has won more than Bird.
Yeah, and I don't... the thing that I really don't want to see is Bird's first win be against a character that is clearly way stronger than him. Because if you don't build up his ability to win at all, and then you put him against Burn or something, and he wins, that's going to bother me. I'm not going to like that.
Even in the manga, like, he gets this whole Bay of Hell's Chain, and he tries to go on this different strategy, but he doesn't win, actually, just because he has Hell's Chain. He has a different bay, and they acknowledge that because you have a different bay, you still have to work for it. And I actually like that treatment a lot in that regard, but...
I do too.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to say they did the same thing in the anime with Strike Hawk. Like, for a character to come back with Strike Hawk and still beat him, it's just... I like how it sort of solidifies that getting a different Beyblade isn't going to make him a better player.
Mm-hmm. The monthly manga is definitely better than the anime. The anime recoloring existing... They're not even doing that, so this comment's already wrong. And doing some filler since the manga is monthly. The manga has no recolors, and the story and the character designs are just better. Okay, well, this one... We leave this one as kind of a little bit cap on the hates. That's a little bit... We're pushing a little bit too far on the envelope on that one. I don't know about that one. Let's see what else we got. There's just a lot of people think for some reason Comon X is going to be like some antagonist. I don't know, man. I don't know what's wrong with people.
But they think he's going to flip sides or something?
They think, I don't know, I think they're going to be, because you remember when he was going like crazy laughing or whatever, like, this is the sign, he's evil, he's going to be at the end versus Bird. And that's why you don't watch Beyblade Burst God. It's a terrible season.
I think what we're seeing there is like Comon X actually put in some effort. Because up until now, he hasn't had to try at all. And I think him getting upset with the situation made him put more effort into that battle. And that's why we see so much. So like once we get to like the later battles, like maybe we see like really insane fight choreography in terms of the battles and stuff. Like maybe it gets insane like further down, but like it would make sense that like all of the battles up until now, Cross hasn't really had. These are all really low level in comparison to 100 floors.
And I also like the Kakaguri influence kind of with not even just the manga with his reactions, like when he finally met King and he was so happy, but like even like when he's going crazy on just reacting to like just these bladers and just beating them, like I those are stuff that I like and I want them to explore more with. We're gonna see what else they got. I think a lot of the complaints is just kind of similar to what I had. Okay, here's a different one. I want to read a different take. I only started watching out of curiosity, but I've stuck around largely due to being way better than I expected it to be. I expect any hobby anime to be mediocre at best, but it's gotten some genuine laughs out of me. Okay, fair enough, huh?
I respect that comment, but I feel like this is probably somebody who has not seen a lot of anime like this.
I think I'm pretty sure it is, but no, I think I understand. I think it's probably just that's why I always talk, and that's the point you just said, that Beyblade anime has been very, very actually strong. G-Rev, most of Metal Fight, some of Burst has been very strong visually. That's why X is so like haunting. But we're gonna get to the next one, as I'm going to quickly charge my phone, and I will be on mute for like 2 seconds. But I was gonna ask actually, sorry, that's going to be the echo of me. What are your thoughts so far on the products now? Because I think we covered the anime. We think the anime does these good quality aspects. Obviously, we're going to wait to see how it develops, make it get better. What do you think of the actual stuff right now? In terms of just like the products, general meta part stuff, because we're still not even, a lot of people got to realize, we are still not even in the first season. This is still season 1. We are still, just, every time I read some of the comments, I always get confused, because like, guys, we're not even halfway through the season yet.
Yeah, we're like a quarter of the way through them, just about, like with the first season. So it's like, yeah, we haven't gotten through that much in terms of like quantity, but like you said, this is on pace for all of the other series. If you look at the releases for Metal Fight or for Burst or whatever, in terms of quantity, this is on par pretty much with everything else. Like in terms of the number of releases and the number of like unique parts and stuff. Like, do we all want new stuff faster? Probably, if you know, maybe our wallets don't, but this is on pace with all the previous generations. So I don't really have any too many issues with the pacing of it. So far, everything that's released, I'm pretty into. I'm a little disappointed with a couple things, but overall, I would say all of the products, like, I think are pretty good. Everything's pretty balanced.
I will have fun with audio editing this part until my phone gets back to battery, but no, I agree. I think so far it's been a lot of the right stuff, and we've been getting variety. The rush bit, the gear variants, those are gimmicks. As much as people don't want to accept, those are actual gimmicks. They're focused on, a gimmick is some unique feature, shape, or quality to it. Those are gimmicks. Even technically the blades are. And I think a big issue is the Burst Baby crowd. And I don't like to use that description, but it's people who grew up with Burst who think for a metal Beyblade, for like the blade, they can insert 50 gimmicks into it like a Burst stuff. When if you look at HMS or, well, actually, technically, but that's like the bottom parts, but Metal Fight, there's no real gimmicks on the metal wheels, never really. 40, yes, but 40 was the only time. It's always been very simple. This has a unique shape. This does smash attack. This does upper attack. This does barrage attack. You know, this does destabilization. So I think some criticism there is a little bit unwarranted and doesn't really make any sense. You can't really insert gimmicks into metal layers. It doesn't make any sense when people are saying that. And bit-wise, it's again, I feel a lot of X right now is still the baby stages, right? And even comparing to Metal Fight, dude, we have had like a lot of releases, like even if you compare it to the pre-hybrid wheel stuff, I think the count might be more than Burst. Maybe. I think by the time we finish season 1, the amount of blades that are unique will be more than like Burst season 1 with like single and dual, because we have like a pretty hefty amount. Even I'm surprised by it. But what do you think of, like, in terms of just like gimmick wise, whatever? For what we have so far, what do you think?
I think it's all fine. I think, like you said, I think there's a lot of expectation for there to be more than what there is right now, and people are forgetting like the start of other generations. So, you know, we've been lucky enough to have been around since some of the previous gens or whatever. But early on, like Metal Fight, you got pre-hybrid, and then even pre-hybrid, and then single layers or whatever with Burst. Very basic, very minimal parts, very minimal selection, a lot of recycled parts, up through Random Booster 1, 2, 3, maybe even through 4. It was quite a while before we started getting any sort of like the gimmicks that people are wanting. So rubber gimmicks or free spinning bearing stuff, like that's going to happen later down the line. Yeah. So a lot of people are upset, oh, we got another flat bit, or we got another taper variant, or this or that. Look, we're only like, what, 4 or 5 months in, or something like that?
Yeah.
5 months, something like that. And like I said, it's on pace with all of the previous releases. This is standard. This is how it always works. This is nothing new. We're not getting shorted on parts. This is normal. I think, if anything, some of the gimmicks are functionally better than some of the gimmicks that we've gotten in the past early on. So like the claw gimmick from Burst, Random Booster Volume 1 or whatever, the Trident Heavy Claw. Yeah, it was a completely useless tip. Like it was not usable in terms of like competitive or even like just as an interesting gimmick. It just sucked. But like
design, pretty much, it's not even good.
Pretty much all of the gimmick parts that we're getting, like you said, like Rush and Gear Flat and Gear Ball and stuff, they're interesting. Functionally, they're interesting. They perform differently. The point bit, like all of the gimmick parts that are not just standard parts, I think have been pretty interesting. I think the one exception to that is maybe Spike. I think the Rhino Horn in general, I think, is probably the most, I don't want to say uninteresting because I like the aesthetic of it, but probably the worst release so far is probably Rhino.
I don't. That's tough because Rhino is pretty good for attack stuff. That's the one good thing it has going for. I feel Leon Claw. I don't know.
No, don't even say it. No.
Well, because
don't speak Leon Claw.
The thing is, when I did my original testing, I think the issue was there's no real opposition, right? Like it's Hell's Ball, whatever. Yeah. So it could kind of win in that regard. But then after you got so much more steep competition and the blade has become very hard to use, there's good parts like Point and 560. I would
say the parts overall for Leon Claw are better than the parts overall for Rhino.
Well, it's the reverse, right? Leon Claw, the blade is really not that usable. The ratchet and bit are. Rhino, it's really, I mean, the ratchet's recycled anyways, but it's really just the blade, not really the bit. But I do expect, to still get some of like the silly stuff. And I think they're already taking notes from Burst with like low and high variants, which actually they have done more effort than a lot of people will realize. If you pay attention to the anime in the official app, High Needle was modified in the final release. The original High Needle you see in the anime and in the app was just supposed to be this exact same as Needle but taller. So they actually made the effort to modify it in the variant, which I was really surprised with. I think the only exception so far has been High Taper, which is more or less the same as regular Taper, but I'm not too crazy on. But those make sense as like, let's be like, it's more or less the same if you got like a release of another defense bottom or a sharp bottom, or that's more interesting to me, right? Or in the getting another XL. That's at least like, because like technically speaking, if this were to be like Burst or Metal Fight, Shark Edge would have just got another flat. Night Lance would have been just Needle again or something like that. So I'm okay with these liberties that they're taking in some of the variation. Yeah. Because even the variants all play differently from each other. It's same by name, but not same by performance. Right? Yeah. So now we're going to take this to the comments, and we're going to see what kind of good takes we have, or terrible takes we have. Well, this one was a funny one. Someone said they could use more diverse shapes. They're all mostly variants of circle, triangles, and squares. I asked them, what are they talking about? And they said that they're most likely high when they made that comment. So, next comment indeed. What do we got here? I want to see an improved system. It's too early to say that. Okay, I wanted to read some of the hot takes. Okay. Honestly, they seem less exciting in terms of variety. They have no real gimmick. You can tell this is a Burst fan. They have no real gimmicks when they compared to Burst. I just said it. I just said they're a Burst fan because they immediately said compared to Burst. Also, probably the most simple and boring in terms of customization, and having no stickers available to add more flair, and not being able to change the plastic on the inside and the metal ring and the bit piece or whatever they're called in this gen. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this? Look,
single layer Burst had 3 parts. Okay, 3. You had the layer, you had the disc, and you had the driver. That's it. 3 parts.
Metal Fight was basically 3 parts minus the face bolt.
Yeah, Metal Fight, pre-hybrid, 3 parts. You had the metal wheel, you had the track, and you had the tip. Bakutin Shoot, pre-spin gear system. You had 3, well, technically 4 parts if you want to count the bit chip, but it's not really a functionally different part. You had the attack ring, the weight disc, and the blade base. Because prior to the spin gear system, the spin gear was fixed, so it was not removable. It's been the exact same since 1999. Okay, it's the same progression-wise. Yes, same model, and this is the way it goes every single time, and they get progressively more complex. They have more parts, whatever, as the series goes on. If they do everything right from the get-go, then there is a much less travel distance to get from point A to point B in terms of complexity. And it's just like they can do a lot more if they start basic and they work their way up.
Even already better than Burst is that they're actually doing heights.
Yeah, exactly. So like the height thing makes a huge difference in terms of performance, which Burst didn't really have because you're locked to the height of that driver, and there's very little height variance in those drivers. Like just overall, actually, in Burst in general, there's very little height variance in the drivers from beginning to end. There you had stuff like HiXN Plus, and like there's a few like gimmick drivers
super late.
Yeah, it took a long time for there to be any sort of height variance, and a lot of it was not super meaningful. But yeah, we're getting height variance very early on, which makes a huge impact in the way that things function. So to say that like it's not enough is just ridiculous. That and a lot of people forget that Burst early on, the layers were awful in terms of the teeth. They did not last long at all. And a lot of them were like not even usable. They were completely like unusable. Like I think like Ragnarok, single layer Ragnarok.
Oh yeah.
Prior to dash drivers, dog crap. There's a lot of stuff all the way through God that the teeth were just so bad you could not use them.
And when people talk about customizability in options, the start is never that complicated. They have to build towards it. But in terms of just, I know a lot of people suggest this, and I'm going to be honest, I think with how the thing is right now, I don't think they can. A lot of people really want this just to be Metal Fight, where it's a clear wheel, it's a face bolt. But with how X is designed, I don't think right now, and unless I see something that's different, as my thing cut off for 1 second, I don't think you're going to get like this clear wheel thing, whatever, because it's all riveted together, and it's riveted together because one, you have to have the connection to the bit to the thing to allow the free spin for it. So when people are asking for these very specific things on the modification for design, I think it's a little bit unreasonable because how can you, the sticker thing, they could just make stickers. That one's kind of a minor thing, but I only mean maybe for like the middle portion. Because even that's I forget what it's called. There's the super special Hell Scythe, special cross, whatever edition. Like X can't have literal stickers on them because that's it. One hit Shark Edge, that Hell Scythe Bay, no more stickers, right?
Yeah, stickers gone. I don't understand the fascination or the want for the fusion wheel system to come back, mostly just because, and I'm saying this as somebody who's attended Metal Fight tournaments, and like if you look at my early content on my channel, it's pretty much all Metal Fight. So I'm not speaking out of pocket here. Those plastic wheels make very little impact on combo building outside of a handful of very specific things, like Bakushin or like Screw Capricorn or whatever. Like there's a couple different metal wheels that like functionally will perform different with different clear wheels on them, but for the most part, they have very little impact on actual gameplay, especially on like, because a lot of this stuff is very round for Metal Fight. So like it doesn't make a huge difference what clear wheel you're putting on Earth or Flash or Flame or whatever. It's like it's cool or whatever, but functionally it really did not make a huge impact. It really didn't.
Yeah, I think there's maybe like there'll be some things that'll obviously do a little bit better because maybe certain stuff is more exposed than the other
Yeah,
stuff, but I
yeah,
don't think
like
it's
Bakushin
like
Leon.
some huge thing. I think it's maybe just the feeling of more customizable options, but
Yeah,
I can only see the bottom of the X base getting more options. I can't really see the blade because the thing has to be protected. They have to have the things riveted. That's the most important thing. And I think I did this video, I have to get it out eventually, on the counterfeit of X bays. Those are screwed, like normal screws, not riveted. That's a bad thing. These bays are riveted for a reason. So when you're doing all these intense battles, there's no like breakages, whatever. It's to hold everything properly together over a long period of time for durability. So that's why the blade thing, like I understand, but it's just the design of the system. I don't if someone who does 3D print design can prove to me that it is possible to do what they are saying, to have the blade very customizable while still having the metal, while still having the bottom parts, while still having more or less the integrity of that system, of how all the stuff is designed, they can prove it, I'm all ears.
yeah. I mean,
It feels like impossible to me, or at least right now.
for the actual blade, yeah, I would agree with you. I feel like we'll get some sort of customization later down the road, maybe with the bits or the like more complicated ratchets or whatever. But I don't see them creating some sort of separation unless it's a complete redesign of how that blade works. It's just like you said, like the ratchet has to go into that, the bit feeds into that as well. Like it's very hard for you to start removing pieces from that and retain the integrity of it. So it would, yeah, I don't see how they would do it. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but
Right, that's fine. That's the offer for anyone listening. They
yeah,
could
yeah. I
obviously,
mean,
the one thing I think, which even if I don't agree with stickers working for X, if they wanted to, they could do promotional stickers or
yeah,
that type of stuff, like those old packs you used to get on Bakuten and Metal Fight and even
yes,
Burst, like nice little custom stuff, whatever. That
yeah,
that could maybe be fine, whatever. But I don't know. I'm very much kind of like a stickler when it comes to kind of designs for Beyblades. Like Bakuten Shoot, it makes sense. It works well with the design when you have the stickers on them. That's fine. Metal Fight, you can almost have no stickers on and the Bay can still look pretty good. Burst, I think, got too over designed, too complicated. And I think a lot of the vision might be just because of how Burst is, because I've seen some edits and some of them are fine, and there's no offense to anyone who does the edits, but some of them feel almost like too overcomplicating for the design for the type of stuff. But that's like, again, that's just a minor preference for the thing. They could do whatever they want for the stuff. Now we'll
yeah.
kind of hit on some other bases. So let's see what else. Okay, well, this launcher grip system limits design by requiring 3 protrusions on the top of every bay compared to other jet. What? Are you talking about the handle? Okay, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
They're talking about the metal prongs that go on top of that are on top of the Beyblade.
Right?
To the launcher. How does that limit?
I think they mean the launcher attaching to the bay and the middle part gets limited.
I'm not sure how that impacts it.
I mean, maybe it's not really taking that much design space. Most of the space is outwards. I don't think it's affecting the designs that much. Otherwise, I think it's maybe been a little bit slow on new parts given the level at which the boys, I think they mean the bays. I would expect some change on some tips, whatever. So yeah, I think a lot of it's just patience. Let's see what else we got here. I hope they continue to release bays in sets of 4 with consistent parts variants. So a lot just want to see a lot of releases and variation. Okay. Okay, here we go. Although the battles themselves are fun, some of the designs look really good. I wish they would try to be more creative with their bays. Almost like the start of Burst AC, where I say it's the burst crowd, and I keep saying this, but Okay, almost like the start of Burst or Burst God, and they had a unique gimmick or skill you could utilize. That's plastic base. You can insert more shit into it because it's plastic. Metal will be different designs that you can do. You can't. I wouldn't even know what UX is. So maybe UX they incorporate more of the gimmicks that people want. Who knows?
Yeah, I think probably, but I was just saying that like I think people are forgetting about they're skipping single layers because the parts that came out for single layers are not gimmick heavy. You had very basic stuff come out in terms of like the drivers and the discs and stuff. I don't think we really had any gimmicks for single layers up until.
No, not really. It was all basic. I think it was all, Excalibur Force Extreme. First rubber tip was there.
Excalibur and Trident. It was really the only ones that
I think there was a few, but that was still late into the thing. That was like a lot later on, anyways. I think there's Gyro. I can't remember what was season 1. It doesn't. Besides the point. The point is just X is still developing. If we see it a little later, we got a pretty long comments that I will be reading. Okay. Overall, I'm not particularly fond of the Beyblade X line. Yes, the new Extreme Dash gimmick does add some cool spectacle to the fights, even giving some Beyblades a chance to one-hit kill, and some decent and some more recent designs, Viper Tail, Phoenix Wing, Land Claw, Rhino Horn, genuinely look pretty decent. But that's all the praise I can give because I got some complaints about everything else. For one, while I think the Extreme Dash gimmick is a net positive, I also think it's very obvious that attack-type Beyblades were the one that the gimmick was predominantly designed for, and considering that Beyblade X is building off of the Burst series, which is heavily favored to attack types with the bursting gimmick, it makes the other types not feel as not as special or whatever to use, then certainly less valuable from both a casual and competitive standpoint. I get attack types are the most fun from a spectacle standpoint, but if the Beyblades are going to move forward continuously and rig the meta in the favor of the attack types, then I feel it's worth asking why bother even have different types. This is very pessimistic. Why have different types at all? Just make one. Okay, Jesus Christ, man, it's not that deep. Just make every single one attack type. Do the favor you get away with the system entirely. There's more. Do you want to first tackle that?
Yeah, let's tackle that because I got some things to say. Okay, so first off, I think everybody was skeptical about the Dash system, the rails and everything. Everybody was skeptical about it to some degree. But having spent a good bit of time with them now, having followed the tournaments, having followed, the stuff going on in Japan, being like very cognizant of like the actual meta and the gameplay and having hands-on with it, I can. This is going to be a hot take, actually. I think Beyblade X is the most fun I've had with Beyblade in a decade.
Yeah, fun for sure.
I think the meta is more balanced than what people give it credit for. I think a lot of people are not realizing how much usage stuff like Hell on Ball gets. There's a lot of like sort of stamina defense combos that are not attack types that are placing high. It's not just like there are definitely attack types that are doing well, but it's not everything's balanced. So a stamina type still
close as possible right now.
Yeah, it's close. And like I said, like Hell Scythe on Ball or on Orb or whatever has been doing well since for the last few months. Pretty much every tournament it's doing well. So to say that attack types are favored to the point where like it's minimizing usage or making other typings redundant is just absolutely not true.
I also have to say this, but I feel like a lot of takes I like it's one thing if you want to say defense right now for like literal defense bits or blades, maybe we could use better like maybe some criticism focused towards there. I'm like, okay, I can understand that. But
sure.
This idea that the entire thing is focused on first of all, Bro, Burst? What was the end of Metal Fight? What was the end of Burst? BD145, RDF, BDR. Now, Metal Fight is still more diverse in the end of it than maybe... Actually, I'll say end of Metal Fight could feel more diverse than Beyblade Burst. What is the end of Burst? The end of Burst is literally predominantly heavily biased towards stamina types. And you could easily make a counter argument saying, well, even though you don't like this, let's focus more on the stamina side. That is the core aspect of Beigoma, outspinning the Bay. But even just the attack thing, like, have you played the game? People can literally punish themselves if they are... Attack requires a lot of skill. That is why the extreme finish is 3 points. You could easily, and I've had this happen to me, and I've lost in the finals because of it, where I self-extreme, or I go in the pocket, right? It's a double-edged sword. You could do well, or you could do bad. I know a lot of Japan stuff where they're just running pure stamina stuff. I know areas in the WBO where they're more focused on the stamina stuff. There is diversity in the meta and design. I feel like we're kind of just... I feel this is... you know what I feel, and I'm going to quickly unplug real quick, so probably you're going to hear the phone echo. But I wanted to say, I feel like this person had to have lost in some event to some drawn sword on 360 flat to make the comment that this is all bullshit for the entire system design, that all the and this, by no offense, this is just banter, by the way, for the commenter. Listen, we love and respect you, but I'm just, it's a very pessimistic point of view for an entire archetype for all the stuff. If it was focused more on maybe the defense criticism, I could maybe see, but like, to say this is heavily... There's maybe slight bias, but I don't think it's like people. It's not. This is not like you pick up a drawn sword, you can win in a whole event, and that's all you need. There's a lot that goes into it. The Nizuma is covered. There's how you launch the base, tilt, no tilt. Where do you throw it on the base? Like, it's a very the game. Well, you can maybe argue is not going to maybe be as complex as maybe, let's say, something like Bucket and Shoot right now for customizability, or even just general Metal Fight. There is still, even with the stadium being RNG, there's still levels of complexity to this game.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I would say that, like, it's like, because you have to learn a completely different skill set because of the stadium, it feels like, for me, it just feels really fresh. And two, like I said, a lot of people were really skeptical, as was I, with the sort of extreme line and all of that stuff and the stadium design. But the more that I've messed with it and the more that I've spent time with it, the more that I really like it. The battles feel faster. They feel more intense. It feels like there's less margin for error, actually. I just personally, I feel like there's less margin for error, especially in launching attack types. It's very easy, like Zankye said, it's very easy to self-KO yourself out of that extreme zone. And, you know, that puts you down 3 points. So to say that and it definitely, like I said, I don't think it favors attack types. I think the focus is on the speed of that line, but I wouldn't say it's easier to win with attack types than stamina, or maybe defense. I guess you could argue, but that's just because we don't really have any like real defense tips. There's no rubber sharp, there's no coat sharp, there's no rubber ball. That stuff will come later.
Even the whole thing with the extreme line, like I can probably count a few times where defense type has reverse KO'd an attack type, or Hell Ball wins encounters the attacker by using the extreme line or something. All the bays can. It's not like they designed it where only the attack bays have this gear thing. All the types can kind of use it. Now I'll read the rest. Now, first of all, we're gonna respect this comment because there's a very bold hot takes that they're giving, and they are putting this on the forefront. So we appreciate the heat that they are giving on this and being honest, because I prefer that than just, you know, not sharing at all. Okay. Speaking of doing away with certain things, I gotta flat out say I'm already sick of the X-style remakes of older generation Beyblades. First and foremost, the fact that these Beyblades were... Oh, sorry, I lost my mind. The fact that these remakes were announced and subsequently launched almost immediately after the X system, and after the new X, first of all, and a fact check your buddy. It was one Beyblade Dronzer S, and it was just to advertise, so that way you get more fans interested in Beyblade X. So when they did the whole voting thing, more fans get into it. That's why you didn't see Drigger S here, Tripio 2023. You only saw one remake, and we're only getting the rest of the remakes like later on in spring or whenever. So that one's, I think, a little bit unfair. It comes off as, okay, so blah, blah, blah. It comes as Karatami indirectly admitting that they are not very confident in the X system's ability to stand on their own, both in terms of sale and general identity, so decided to pander to the older fans of Beyblade by announcing these remakes. I was already getting iffy about the remakes when they did the Burst Generation did them, but let's just say I'm not too warm on the idea of them doing it again. So this, I feel, is misdirect, and I have to read more of this. I'm sorry, this dude did like, this is more effort than I probably put into like a college essay, and this guy went in. But when this whole thing of like, I think it's too pessimistic how you're kind of viewing it. Yes, obviously it's pandering towards older fans, but there's no real issue with it. It's more paying homage to the previous generations. It's not like, even when Burst did it, Burst was very limited in their selection. Even when X is doing it, it's going to be limited in its selection. It's more just, hey, we've gone on for like this many decades. This is our new system. We love our fans that have supported us to this point. You love Bucket and Shoot. Here's a Drigger. Here's a Tripio, though I hate Tripio, but here's Tripio that won. Here's the Dragooness, Metal Fight Fan, Pegasus, El Drago, Valkyrie. I can understand in the sense maybe trying to view, but I don't see it in the way as necessarily desperation. Obviously, it's going to help drive a lot of popularity, but I feel it's just more of a positive thing because it gets more fans into it and it helps overall build. I feel that's too pessimistic of kind of viewing. Now we're going to get to the end of this part. This guy's going in, man. Okay. Second, many of the bays being remade will almost certainly have the individual gimmicks that made them unique boiled down, otherwise stripped away for either technical reasons or sake of keeping things consistent from an aesthetic and a gameplay standpoint, thereby eliminating the whole appeal of the reason to buy them. And lastly, I'm absolutely sick to death of seeing the same handful of bays get remade, like whether it's Dragooness or Storm Pegasus. You're getting Tripio, by the way, but I hate Tripio, but you're getting Tripio. The fact it's almost the most popular and iconic Beyblade from previous generations, well, it comes off as best as cheap as cash. Well, here's the thing, because no one's gonna buy, I'm sorry to say this, no one's gonna buy a thermal Lacerda if they see it in the store. Nobody's gonna do it. No one's gonna buy Bump King, whatever it is on Plastic Gen. That's the unfortunate reality. It's the popular stuff that wins. Obviously, you could make some case they should maybe do a main popular motif vote and then after a secondary vote on additional stuff. But listen, at the end of the day, that's what we get. And it's gotta sell, right? And let's be honest now, like no one gives a shit about like your CLF, but they still, because it's popular, right? They're still trying to do it, right? But even then, certain bays have certain amounts of appeal. We'll get. I'm sorry, man. We got to get through the rest of this. Okay, we're almost done. It comes up with a cheap cash grab with the increasingly diminishing returns, and at worst ends up being an uncreative exercise known as recycling content to prevent less well-known, otherwise not well-remembered Beyblades from those generations to get the spotlight again. Where are the remakes of... Well, actually, HMS did get in the top 10. Dragoon MS, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Dragoon MS did get, so that one... But Zero G, listen, they're not going to... Okay, buddy. Why are they going to do any remakes for the stuff that caused them to end the whole generate? Zero G, literally, people forget this. Well, technically, Plastic Gen and technically HMS did finish because they were going to do that bug thing or whatever right after that. But the generation didn't technically finish properly. Metal Fight literally did not finish. They canceled right at the end. That's why you got lost episodes, canceled random booster, did all this stuff. But okay, I understand the sentiment, right? Now, first of all, what do you think in general for how they do some of the remakes for their approach? Because I'll agree to this extent that they do kind of not make new content. I've complained about this too. Like, I would love to see more a spiral change thing, maybe something closer to Dronzer S's original gimmick, or a metal change for like Drigger S, right? Or what, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I'm fine with remakes. Like remakes are, especially since it's like the 25th anniversary, so it's expected that they're going to do something like this. Other series do stuff. I mean, look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Like how many times have they reprinted, you know, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon, whatever. Like it's the anniversary. They're celebrating, and they're doing stuff from every gen. They're doing Bakugan, they're doing Metal Fight, they're doing Burst. So we're going to see remakes for everything, and it makes sense for them to pick the iconic Beyblades. Would I like to see Frostic Dronzer? Sure, just because I like that Beyblade and I think it's interesting. But that's pre-anime. You didn't really. I mean, you saw it in a couple episodes as like filler bays, but like they're gonna pick the main character Beyblades to remake for the most part. And we had some voting, so we may get some thrown in there. Yeah, but I mean that's just the reality of it. It has to sell and it has to appeal to the demographic that they're looking for. So these Plastic Gen remakes, they're looking to bring in older fans. Same with Metal Fight. They're looking to bring all these old fans back into the series. They're trying to get eyes on X to get people back into it because their marketing's changed. They're going for that more sport thing. They're trying to make it more competitive or whatever. It's opened up to like, later ages and stuff in terms of like the tournaments in Japan. So they're trying to get those people back in, and they're not going to do that, like you said, by releasing Bump King. In terms of the parts, would I like to see more complicated, more faithful recreations of some of the parts?
Yeah, I would love that.
Sure. But people are buying them because it's Dragoon. They're not buying them because it's got, Dragoon S has some funny little gimmick that, changes height with it. Like that's not what people are going to buy.
I think it would be nice if they could try to maybe be like a teensy bit closer. I think how they do this and why certain things get picked, it's because later on if they do a remake, it's so they can just reuse that. And you can argue whatever that maybe that you're not a fan. And that's the only part I think is valid, just the new content part, but I think it's a little bit misguided, the comment, but I at least appreciate the comment, I appreciate these type of takes and that stuff because it's important to have a discussion. So it's not just, I love this. It's important to see the other side of what people think, even if I think that comment is very... It just went off. How dare they do another Dragoon S, another Storm Pegasus, and now there's another Valkyrie. Oh my god!
Here's
that one. I think. I get it, but let's take it a little bit easy.
Here's the other part to that too: is that like the remakes for Burst were not. A lot of them were not good. They were bad, especially Dragoon. Like. Outside of like one classic combo, Dragoon is absolutely useless. So I would like to see, I want another Dragoon S remake. I would like another Dragoon F remake that's better that I can actually use because like you couldn't use them competitively in Burst. They were a novelty thing. So I would like for them to improve on them this time around. That way we can actually use them because I want to go to a tournament and I want to use Dragoon S. That would be sick.
And I think that's part of the issue with the Burst system. Like maybe there's Drigger S or whatever, or some of the small stuff, that maybe or Wallborg or whatever. But I think the issue with Burst when they did the remakes is that they were hindered by the system itself because of how the twist is and everything. And I think I did a thing talking about this. But even some Battle Fight stuff kind of worked. But I think my issue, which this one doesn't really point out, it's how they nerf them that I don't agree with. Yeah. Like Dronzer S does not need to be 28 grams.
It's too light.
That's like, even if it can be used, even if you can maybe do some stuff whatever to make it work, that's where this gets really confusing. Like the Metal Fights, the what do you call the second season? The whatever it is, I lost the name. The explosion thing, Metal Fight Explosion.
Metal Masters.
Yeah, Metal Master. Yeah, whatever. Like Hell Curve X. You breathe on it, burst. Medieval Drago.
For burst.
Terrible. right? So that part, I hope for the future stuff, Tripia, whatever, that there's nothing wrong if the remake, that's why it doesn't make any sense when they do some of these choices. Those choices don't make any sense to me at all. Like, what's the harm in Drudzer being the same weight as the normal stuff, whatever. I feel like sometimes they're afraid the remakes are going to be too good, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would like them to be a little heavier, a little better. But in terms of like them remaking stuff, I have no problem with it. I think it's good. I think it's good. Like everybody like has their favorite generation. It might be Burst, it might be Metal Fight, it might be Bakugan Shoot. So to be able to use those Beyblades in the newest generation, I think is a really cool idea.
Mm-hmm. This one is going to be very controversial and pretty political, actually. I think X is really great right now, but I need way more Wizard Arrow recolors. There's not nearly enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, next to the X one, we got a few more and we're done. So far, I have a very love and hate relationship with Beyblade X. It's very fast-paced and exciting. However, I feel there's a lot of luck and randomization to the game, considering there's a lot of recoil and aggressive shapes that the blades have. I think X has huge amounts of potential to be very good in a balance system. One of the biggest things I have seen that hurts Beyblade X is the weights of very aggressive attack-style blades. Some of the best attacking blades in the game are the heaviest, and with them already getting the buff of the extreme rail to aim, and those KOs and extreme finishes, I think defense and stamina types, they mean specifically, are hurting very badly because of it. Ball is very good for stamina / defensive base, but they still get knocked out fairly easily because of the massive weight difference. Stamina attack blades should have their weight close the same, but defense should be a little bit heavier. So, attack being heavy, I don't think the issue is the attack weight. I think the issue is the other weights of the other types, really. I think really just defense.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at stuff like, yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't feel like it's not like Hell Scythe or Chain or Viper or any of these other Beyblades that are not specifically like attack types are getting, completely obliterated. I think they all do pretty respectable like win losses in terms of like tournament results. I just don't agree. I think it's pretty balanced right now. It's not like attack types are, like we said earlier, it's not like they're so overpowered that they're completely dominating the meta.
I think maybe heavier defense types is. I can see that making sense, because defense should maybe be generally a little bit heavier than attack stuff, because otherwise, what are you defending?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably agree with you there, but I mean, on the flip side of that,
in terms of domination of the attack stuff, that one I'm probably never going to agree with.
Yeah, I don't know that making them like 3 grams heavier would really make that big of a difference. Like, if you have Drawn Sword or Shark coming off of that line and making contact, it's still going to go flying. It's not like it's going to just sit there and not move. It's not going to tank a hit like that. It's still going to move.
Even Hell's Chain is pretty good at defending. Well, I mean, I don't know if they mean... Well, I mean, there is technically defense. I don't know if you mean literally like high needle or whatever, or spike. But maybe... I think maybe the disconnect is maybe just the blades, because I feel like you could use like Hell's Chain on Orb or something, or Ball or Hell Scythe. And technically that is defense. That has defensive aspects to it. Shield, I think, does have defense. I don't know. And it's very hard because I'm not there playing in the events. So I don't know. Is it maybe just they don't know how to launch the defense? Do they have really good people who can launch attack? I don't know. You know what? It could be one or the other. Or it could be some reasons, whatever. I think that's kind of the hard part to understand. And that's why I can't really be definitive on my answer on that one.
Yeah. I think a big part of that too is also that there's no real good defensive tips or bits either. So once that happens, that may change things around. I mean, but like if compared to like I don't know, RDF or RSF or something.
Yeah. Or even just something that can maybe just like if you slapped it on very reliable. Well, actually, I had this take. I want to actually see if you agree or disagree. I think for the tips, for the bottom, for the bits, I think it should be stamina should be the weakest no matter what. Defense, I think, should have like mid resistance, maybe like middle, maybe like half of like an attack bit. And then after bounce and attack can be whatever. I think, because, after doing Gear Ball a lot, I don't know. I feel like there's some bits where they have to maybe think about the resistance a little bit more. Maybe that I could see.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, actually, especially for Gear Ball. Because, I feel like that would be a lot better if the resistance was just a little bit higher. Like you said, if it was like middle of the road, even this is technically, it's technically not a defense tip either, but I do think especially having those gears all the way down, it makes it a little more riskier.
I don't even know if I'm just getting bad luck or whatever. I don't even know why it burst so much. My shark kept killing it. But that's also the thing. If you're gonna have a gimmick focus on the extreme line, you should also be considerate of resisting that type, but that's whatever. That's just me being salty because I lost. Okay, well, I think TT has handled Beyblade X extremely well in terms of products. I feel like the selection is great with consistency, durability is seemingly good, with report and breakages falling into the expected rate. Competitiveness and performance is beyond great fun battles for both casual and competitive audience. I feel happy when the Bay battles are fast and impactful. While the bases themselves are easy to understand and assemble and easy to use, I think TT Analyst made the hobby, perfected in that regard. Okay, well, I don't think there's anything to say. I think you just basically said our thoughts.
Yeah, that was a good comment. Actually,
that was a good comment.
Yeah,
I like that.
Good one.
Okay, well, speaking of comments, I think the main problem with the products right now is the metal cracking, and TT definitely needs to reinforce these things. Well, we already did this with Cake. We did a whole hour discussion kind of going over this. And there's this, I think there's a video, I think I saw something kind of complaining about it, or where it's, I'm sorry to say this, it's just you guys are just getting, and I don't mean that, I think it's just really bad RNG that you're getting for those breakages, because I'll obviously say, yes, okay, I've seen breakages of a knight or whatever, but I think the design, for example, Phoenix Feather, I expected to snap because it seemed like a hollow attack blade, and that design never made any sense to me, but it didn't, or I've never seen any breakages for it. I think I don't know. What do you think? What are some of your thoughts?
I mean, it's been a couple months now since we made that video, and I still haven't broken anything. I know that people break stuff. I see every once in a while, I'll see somebody on Reddit or somebody on the WBO has broke a bit or a ratchet.
I've seen an event one time, maybe.
Yeah, or a blade or whatever. But like I said, I think it's to be expected. Somebody's going to break something eventually. Anytime you have a hobby where stuff is hitting each other at a high speed, something is going to break. It's just going to happen. There's no way to avoid that. And it's not happening so frequently that I think it's probably happening less this generation at the start than it has in any of the other generations, actually, in terms of
maybe
in terms of things needing to be completely remolded and stuff, Pre-Hybrid Pegasus got one, Victory Valkyrie got 4.
No, you're right, because Metal Fight had prototype designs that were very aggressive, and they modified it for the final release. Yeah.
No, I mean, even the final releases, Libra, Pre-Hybrid Libra, had mold revisions or whatever. There's several mold revisions in Metal Fight. There's several in Burst. There's several in Bakugan Shoot.
Burst, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
so. I'm not saying stuff doesn't break in X. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that we haven't gotten to a point where they've said, oh, we need to make a mold revision drawn sword, or we need to make a mold revision of this bit or whatever.
I think, probably it'd be something maybe Bakugan, the plastics, Metal Fight. Maybe X, maybe then HMS, then at the bottom burst for like durability and general stuff like that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Like that.
it's context matters, and the numbers matter too. So like, nobody wants to break anything, and if you have one drawn sword and it breaks, you're going to be pissed off, and
Yeah.
maybe your friend broke one too, but like the vast majority of people are not breaking things, or they're not breaking them frequently. And like I've put a decent amount of time on like most of my stuff. I've done a lot of testing. Maybe I've gotten lucky. But I still haven't broken anything.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between this and something like, because a lot of people are like, oh, the materials, whatever. There's a difference between this and Pro Series, because Pro Series is deliberately cheaper in a design flaw, whatever, and it's very consistent overall with all of this stuff. X, it's very much just an outline, just a circumstance of battle. It's not like you bought a wizard arrow, you turn the ratchet, one battle sharkage, and it shatters. No. I think it's just the fact that maybe someone just has only one bay, and it's a lot stronger. I feel it's perfectly fine to be upset, but I don't think they can do anything right now that makes any sense. I think okay, we'll go with one more. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that's really like different for like opinion stuff. Okay. I'm having an incredible time. I'm 40 years old, as is my husband. We were randomly exposed to Beyblade X. I spent 20 years trying to get into the gaming hobby, just sitting at home playing video games, trying D&D and card games and war games, and Beyblade is the hit spot, perfect spot for us. Great hobby and accessible game. Even though I'm a brand new player, I find the product lineup very exciting. This is just a new fan, so just saying that X is pretty good to get into. Accessible, I will agree.
Yeah, it's nice to see people that are older getting into the game, because I feel like it's pretty uncommon. But the fact that it has like appeal to an older audience, especially like in the West, I think is a good sign for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what some of the benefit was burst was the ease of getting into it and the assembly. As much as I'll maybe like the model kits more Metal Fight stuff, I'll at least say that probably by overall like kind of product design, Beyblade is so accessible, and I think X really does do a good job. We'll do one more. Let's see what else. I hope they can improve the stadiums by reinforcing the empty gaps between the walls and the extreme line. It sucks when base gets stuck there and spin out. I hope TT and Hasbro will allow international access to the app and Battle Pass so we can all enjoy the benefits. Products are cool. Lace Viper Tail has a nice teal blue into the color. Okay. I think the stadium thing is just bad luck. And that's happened to me a few times in testings or in battles when I've done with my mom, where sometimes I'll launch and I'll accidentally get caught behind the extreme line and I'll just die because of that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too much of a design flaw with this stadium. It's definitely annoying, but it's not too bad. But speaking of which, the next stadium we'll have is going to be the 3-player stadium. What do you think about it?
I mean, so like I guess its usage is going to be for like early like rounds for tournaments and stuff with multiple players. So for that, I think it's cool. Outside of that, like I wouldn't really say I have too much interest in it. It just looks like an oversized stadium.
I think it's just filler.
It's kind of I think it's mostly a tool for tournaments. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's not, I didn't see it and go, wow, that's amazing, I need to have that. Because I don't think it's going to replace like any of like the
hope not
event stuff. Yeah, like I mean, outside of like I said, like maybe group battles to weed out like large tournaments or whatever, I don't see it being used for anything much more than that.
I think something interesting, just as we build off and we'll finalize for the end, I think it's interesting that they kind of modified the pocket stuff and how the point structure works. That I think is the right step to take with future stadiums for X. I don't like if they would, let's say every season it's one new stadium, like how Hasbro did it with Burst. I want to actually see them experiment with the point structure and maybe just the general pockets design of this stuff. Now, and this is going to be the hot take, because maybe someone might just say, I want the same stadium from start to finish, and that's it.
I actually like gimmicks stadiums to some degree. I think they're pretty interesting. Bakuten did a lot of really interesting ones. Mm-hmm. I would like to see them do some interesting things with X that is functional. I don't mind like straight up gimmicky stadiums, but it would be nice to see them experiment with maybe some different shapes or different lines. And like you said, the points or whatever, because like changing the points up and changing the shape and the rails and stuff could completely change the meta. And if they do that every year, it could be interesting to just switch the meta up from year to year, or like even every 6 months. I'd be fine with that if they were switching stadiums.
And I think that's what X needs to do.
Yeah.
Because you can have the exact same bits, the exact same bottom design. How do you evolve it in a selling standpoint and in general? Hasbro's approach to this in Burst was each new system, different stadium gimmick, maybe some better than others, but I think that's the right idea because it keeps stuff fresh. It reinvents gameplay, even if some done better than others. It's at least, it makes sense in that regard. And I think it just works better for longevity, you know? Like, it's just nice to have variety because obviously this is not a BB-10, this is not a tornado attack, this is a gimmicky stadium already. So I think it makes sense. So long as like they still keep the competitive aspects in mind with point structure, whatever, I think it'd be interesting to see how maybe there's one where it's like they go on a spiral up in the air and they call it Sky Battles or something. I don't know, something like that. Like,
I would. The tower type of like tower stadium thing would be really cool. They've done that several generations actually. So that would be cool to see. It would be nice to just see some interesting things that are like functionally change things up, because like X is really like one of the first systems that incorporates the stadium into the Beyblade, outside of maybe like the Magna Core system. It's the first time like the stadium really impacts the Beyblade to its core in terms of like, you know, it has got these, you know, little gears on it and it's got this strip and it's built into the gameplay. It's not just a gimmick stadium for the sake of having a gimmick. So it would be interesting to see how they sort of progress that or alter that in the future. It'd be cool.
Something else I was thinking about, my phone just died and I'm going to be coming back in 1 second also, just to add on kind of. I think overall they have the right approach in terms of just marketing and everything. Japan, they are pushing these sports kind of stuff, like in the sense there's maybe a famous football team, there's maybe like they'll do a limited training center, and I think everything is building the right way. You know, I'm not a fan of the anime, it's all working with the promo. They're taking the sports side, I'd say generally. I don't think it's ever going to actually really become a sport, but just maybe take it seriously, kind of maybe like esports, that type of stuff they're doing. I think then after you have the remakes, now you're bringing older fans together that works together. And I think Asia-wise, I think all the marketing has been pretty strong. Obviously, you know, it's really only going to be maybe like Japan. I don't know about any of the others. If someone's from any other regions, I don't know if they're doing any other fancy marketing or sports-wise or any type of stuff like that. I know Japan for sure, but kind of want to leave a question you kind of as we finalize and as we wrap up kind of. As Hasbro is going to be handling X this year, which whether it's the summer, the fall, whenever, what is like... Because I'll first give context to Hasbro for their marketing wise, it's fucking terrible. They have like one intern that I think is maybe getting paid now, doing very cringy TikTok type of stuff. They had like the official English sites they barely updated for like the animation, that type of stuff. And my father made fun of them because they never use the proper logo in a lot of these like promotional stuff. They would use the wrong season stuff. And I think the marketing wise, it's so important here, especially as we're going to be approaching, because that's where this all kind of leads up to kind of our thoughts for X. Because if your marketing is bad, or you don't do the right promotion you need to, you will set yourself up for failure. There is a reason why they have all these adults in the promotion. There's a reason why for this tournament they are pushing this is adult but also kids. It's both, it's all ages. It's such an important thing because why do they push towards the adults? Because a lot of people who get into this hobby, like me and you and like many other people, are going to be a lot older. Not just, let's say, parents buying for their kids. So that's why I think, I don't know how they will do it, but what do you think are steps they can take for the English side for marketing, for the where they can do well and succeed in that regard? Like I can throw in one suggestion for an example. I think personally, not just because I'm biased, but I think they should partner with the WBO for hosting events because the WBO is so efficient in the work that they do, and to probably have this get taken maybe more seriously, even if maybe this was more limited stuff for events. Like, there's so many capable and hardworking organizers that we have here, and it's a lot better because I remember all the years before when me and my father used to go to all this promotional stuff. These are like third-party people that get hired that don't actually know anything about the bays, and we had to actually explain the rules. Like there'd be like this quad drive tournament. Some guy would pull in like some guilty Longinus whatever TT. So there's got to be structure. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that would streamline things for them. I think they really need to. I've been watching sort of the destruction of Bakugan over the past 4 months, and the sort of which is completely unrelated, but they've been doing an absolutely awful job of marketing that. TT needs to reach out to people that understand the brand, or not TT, Hasbro. Hasbro needs to reach out to people that understand the brand. So for people that are running their, I hear myself. You're good. For people that are running the social media accounts, the X or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, they need to get people that understand the brand. If they're just bringing in people that they think are recognizable from outside of the community, or that they think have some sort of influencer status or whatever outside of the community, that's a terrible idea. Like, get people that understand the brand and understand the appeal of it. If the branding is going to be competitive, like, bring in people that understand it. So not necessarily saying they need to make competitive content, but that way they can formulate their marketing strategy around that effectively. Takara's done a really good job. I really don't want Hasbro to mess it up by bringing in somebody that has no clue what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of people to pick from. There's people all over YouTube. There's people on TikTok that know what they're talking about. I would like for them to hire people that understand the hobby.
Yeah. And not even just that, actually, a good point you brought up. They've been even doing this with Japanese influencers, and they've gotten them very much involved in the videos and the marketing, that type of stuff, and that makes so much sense. And I think they really need to, because if you really watch it, if you compare, there's a different approach in the marketing. I think that whenever you see the marketing for any of the stuff in Japan, like, the Takeru Tomy promo videos, that type of stuff, it's never been kind of like, I don't know, like really babyfy, like kind of like you can tell to market it towards kids. And I think that's because it's maybe a little bit more mature, maybe for the type of audience that Japan has. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Even in here, I think they maybe had the idea, but even then, I don't know. I think what would make sense, and I got to be committed to this, regardless if it's for or against, if you have, like, for an example, I don't think just because, let's say, Ken Channel maybe thinks Viper Tail, like, let's say Ken Channel says, oh, guys, I'm not too crazy on Viper Tail. They're not going to cut him off because he doesn't like Viper Tail or whatever, right? They need to have influencers, but they need to have, like people that they can trust. Because I've already done this whole thing, whatever, where we've already shown that this whole burst marketing thing has been manipulated by them. And I don't really put that much blame on the influencers or whatever. I think that's good. That's too gray of an area, whatever. But, you know, terms like you can't say the official Takara Tomy name. Be careful what you say. Like actual legal terms they write down for the promotion. It's like just have someone do like have Beyblade Geeks, have Illinak, have me, have like Nightwing. I'm trying to think of other people, you know, like J-Pot, you know, like, I'm talking about just the English ones that I know right now, you know what I mean? And maybe even smaller stuff. Just have, like, those, like, ambassadors, whatever, for it. And it's so important because it gives a face to it. Because everybody knows... If they read hashtag ad whatever, right? If they see all that stuff, they see all that kind of, you know what I mean? Like that type of promotional stuff. They're going to know that how true is the opinion, right? And only really Hasbro changed this approach like... I'm trying to really think when. I think this was around the time before Quad Drive. Because before that point, they just sent stuff. They just said, say that you got sponsored and that was it. And the other thing you said that was really important too, it's who they pick. And I think the people I just listed for an example should be the people that you pick. Now, for an example, you can maybe have some influencer that's maybe more catered towards that audience, whatever, that maybe has 10 millions, whatever. And maybe you could maybe see it as some sort of crossover, but I think the issue, and this was especially when we did the Baytuber thing, the online, the Battle League, whatever, when you have people that don't really cover the products there, what audience are they actually bringing over that converts to sales or that makes sense, right? Like if I'm watching some event thing, okay, I know Cypress, he's from Brazil, he covers it. I know... Beyblade Geeks, they're Canadian, Illinux from America, from the specific part, you know, that type of stuff. Like, it makes sense in that regard. So, that's something I want to see better of. And I think the content just has to make sense. And I've already said it, but, like, they have to find better people that are doing it. And I'm not saying, and obviously, listen, you know, job's a job, you know, whatever. I'm not trying to knock them down necessarily, but I feel like the brand marketing... for what it is in terms of like the social media content, other than like the basic stuff of who's your favorite character, whatever, that's fine. But like, you know, like the video content, I think is dog shit. Like I have to be real, it's really bad. It's really bad. They need someone who understands it. Like if you look at something like for an example, Beyblade Geeks, Illinak, or mine, like a YouTube short, right? And you compare it to something like the brand thing. The brand, it feels like someone who's trying to like understand it, but doesn't really and trying to follow something. When you see the guys who know it, boom, boom, boom. Here's the info. Here's the stuff. Here's the camera angles. It's interesting. It's stuff done well.
Yeah, it's the difference between somebody who has no idea what they're talking about and reading the part list off of the back of the box and whatever it says on the back of the box, like this part's good for this, and they just read that and that's the content, versus somebody who is explaining the parts and what they do and how they function or whatever. That's way more useful. And I think Hasbro has largely in the past underestimated the ability for like the Beyblade community, specifically like you know, YouTubers and stuff, to affect people's perception of a product or to affect sales or
that's why they send samples during so much during burst. That's why there's the Bay team on that focus stuff. It's because, and it's only really around the quad drive stuff, whatever, but that's why, like I said, focus very specific messaging. And you can argue business, what if someone says they don't like it, whatever. But I would argue an honest sponsored review is better than a biased sponsor review, right? Like, how many times do video game journalists get criticized because they give a game a high rating and it's only so they can get the early copy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too with Beyblade is like people will buy it even if it's not great. Like it does, because a lot of people are not
Hasbro.
Yeah, they're not Hasbro, or they're not like super focused on competitive. So like Rhino Horn or Leon Claw. I like Leon Claw. Like any recolor they put out, I'm gonna get it just because I think it's cool and I like cats and
Right.
the King's cool or whatever. So like for people should be able to criticize something and it not the brand or whatever not be hyper fixated on that. Like we should be able to give an honest review and be like, these are the positives, these are the negatives, this was good, this was not. Instead of just being like, here's Hasbro this, it comes with this, and this. Look at me launch it. You know, that's no cute. That's why channels like Beyblade Geeks or you or Illinook or whatever are popular, is because like you guys give functionally good information. It's not just, versus brand channels, which may have a lot of subscribers, but when you look at views on product videos versus somebody like Beyblade Geeks or whatever, or you or Illinook or whatever at the height of a series, vastly different. Vastly different. It also creates division too when you've got, when you're not honest about the products. It creates division.
It creates an issue. Yeah, it creates an issue because then after you get to a lot of debates on but that's I want to also say even stuff like, I'm not saying that they should normalize, but even stuff like leaks, I don't even think are really that bad for Babe. Well, I mean, okay, if you're showing like, for like the Core, for example, if you're showing the entire book or whatever, something like that, okay, that's fine, whatever. But like, for an example, if we see like a product a few months ahead of time or whatever, that type of info, I never have seen it where that info has only been to the detriment of the brand, right? Like,
yeah.
it more builds towards it. And I even feel, and this is a conspiracy, I even feel a lot of media now does fake leaks where they leak stuff, but it's just to drive publicity. You know what I mean? But not all the time. Yeah. Maybe like the Marvel movies, for an example. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. If we get some little pixelated half image of a Beyblade and, everybody's going to want to talk about it because it's new or what. It literally just hypes up the series. I don't see what the, TT, like back when the app leaked or whatever, and this, or, Daimyo getting striked for using a image from the manga. Like, this is literally hyping your brand. It's pushing sales, pushing longevity of your series. Like, stop trying to fight the people who are literally helping your brand.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. In the context of what the copyright's being used for, it doesn't make any sense to hold it to some negative view. But I feel we covered a lot of stuff. We covered our general thoughts on the X stuff. We agree to disagree. Obviously, huge respect to anyone who commented in the community post. If we joked, whatever, don't take it seriously, for the love of God. Please. It's all good banter, all in good fun. I appreciate a lot of the people giving a lot of in-depth takes and a lot of long comments. They were very good to read. I don't know what the next topic is going to be for Beyblade stuff related. I don't know when the next one's going to be. Maybe we'll do, I don't know, whatever. I have maybe some ideas, but if there's any topics people want to see or whatever, or maybe guess, we can maybe try to see. But we're actually going to plug Nizuma now because he actually has a pretty cool cat shirt. So I'll put a PNG up. I'm going to put my hands like this. I remember to edit the PNG. So do your plug for the stuff of the cat.
Yeah. So this is my cat. His name's Max. He is basically my channel mascot. You've probably seen him in the end screen of most of my videos if you guys watch my videos. And I collaborated with Kromchi, which is a small clothing brand, to create this shirt. And if you guys want to get one, you can do that. You can use code Nizuma for a discount, and they've got a ton of sizes. So also check out my channel. Check out my YouTube channel if you want. You could do that. You could do that too. I'm surprised that pretty much every podcast we do, Max starts meowing, and he's just asleep up on the cat tower. So this is the first time he hasn't interjected.
New year, new cats. That's what we like to say. But yeah, please support, especially when you're update video talking about your just situation and moving and all that stuff. If anyone's able to support, greatly appreciated. If it's just watching the videos and liking, either way, support's appreciated. There's do you still have the Patreon?
Yeah, Patreon's still up too. Yeah.
So if you
I've got my hands in too many things right now.
Yeah, if you want to do like a smaller donation or whatever, that type of stuff to support him, you have it. There's the merchandise. If you like cats, I like cats, right? There's the option there. And yeah, I don't know what the next topic is going to be. It all depends on the timing for both of us and the general topic. But yeah, I appreciate all the input, everyone. I don't know how long we went for. Hopefully not too long, because I don't want to edit this. I will have to edit this. So that's where we're going to be ending off the video. So I want to say thank you for watching, and we'll be signing off.